And here we are again once more with the oil pastel portraits. I, as always, want to credit Earth's World for the reference. The last few videos I neglected to put them on the screen, so I'm going to put a reference on the screen now so that you can see what their account looks like. There's going to be a link in the description of the videos with the portraits that I took the source material from them, so check that out. As usual, I start ink first, very scratchy, loose drawing of the basic shape. And if you look at this one, you can see what I'm doing. I'm basically carving out negative space on either side of the head. Is that I want to make sure that the composition of this portrait is sound in my estimation, which is enough space on either side of the head which I think is balanced and comfortable. And that's what I'm doing with these scratchy marks with the pen. And then all of this fiddling that I'm doing now is a little unnecessary, and sometimes I just get a bit distracted. So I started drawing the eyebrows and the eyes far more detailed than I need to. But this is, as you can probably tell, a bit of a smaller square than I've used before for these portraits. Possibly one, the very loose portrait that I made, was quite small as well. And if you've seen these videos out of order, you may have seen a video in the near future which will be even smaller still, because I do go even lower in scale than this square that I'm using. But yeah, I'm boxing off certain aspects of the face. I've got in the eyes, the nose, the cheeks, and now the beard line. I say the cheeks because I always see that as the lines from the nose kind of define where the bulk of the skin bulges out for the cheeks, and then you can start to define those with light and shadow afterwards. And then just drawing in loosely where the ear sits on the portrait. And this is really enough detail, but I do enjoy drawing with a pen, so this is why I sometimes do more work with this fine liner than I have to. But it's all going to be covered up, or mostly going to be covered up, with the oil pastels anyway. So it's just so that I have less errors when it comes to committing to colours and tone for the rest of the work that I put into this. And I find so many interesting faces on Earth's World's account that I do enjoy just doing this shopping for a portrait sometimes on their account. And it's, if I were going to exhibit work, I normally wouldn't use someone else's source material, but there have been a couple of drawings that I've done, or paintings that I've done from their source material, from their references, that I would consider exhibiting because I like the portrait that came out of it. Just elongating the beard there at the bottom, and again, things like that don't hurt because they're going to be covered up with colour and shading anyway. So yeah, I think it's the way this chap's head is turning just makes it really appeal to me in a way, because normally if I draw something from imagination, if it's 3/4, it just won't be, the body won't be straight like this, whereas I feel as though the shoulders are straight onto us and the head is turned and twisted, which makes it more interesting of an angle. And this is what I'm going to try and learn when it comes to the library in my head of references that I can create from imagination in the future. We'll be learning from portraits like this, and how the angle makes the character more interesting in my view. If this is the first time you've watched me use oil pastels, then I will quickly explain. I always go with a bold, dark colour first. Not always actually, but after I'd gotten used to using these the oil pastels, that's what I relied on, was this system, this technique, where I lay down a dark colour first and then blend that with lighter colours. They work very similar to oil paints in that way. Oil paints, you'll find a lot of painters put down the shadow area first and then work in the mid-tone and at very last thing they do is pop the highlights on top, and then maybe some odd details to add more definition to certain areas. So that's what I'm doing here. Just putting in a medium pink and blending it into this very deep red. It's not very deep actually, but it's fairly dark red, which I started off with. You can go backwards, you can go the other way around, but I've found that this is more reliable and starts blending the colours immediately. Each portrait is different, so it's not always these colours in this way. I did a portrait recently where the colours from the cheeks and the nose and the ears were different to the forehead, and I really enjoyed that because it showed how the blood was more apparent through the translucence of the skin on the cheeks and the nose and the ears, because that's just thinner skin and it seems to be more rich in where you see redness on the face. And then the forehead was a brown and a yellow, and it was, you know, a lot warmer colours on the earth tone scale than on the warmth of the red and pink scale that I have with this chap here. Now I've got another medium pink here, and it's very subtle. It's tonally quite similar to the one that I've just used to blend with the initial red, but it's slightly lighter, so I'm trying to mark off certain highlights on the face. And again, as I said, I've gotten used to using these, so it becomes a bit of a system that I go through and a formula that I've found that works, and it makes it quite enjoyable. It doesn't take any of the interest out of it for me. It's still a discovery to see what's working and what needs to be pushed around a little bit more, similar to most paintings. So that's why I enjoy oil pastels so much. Initially, when I first tried them, I found them a bit sticky and a bit like a mixture between crayons and lipstick, and I didn't really enjoy that. But then after using them for a couple of times, I realised that looking back at the pictures I'd made, they were really rich in colour, and they just had a quality which I'd not achieved with anything else. So I think that's what made them interesting for me to keep using, and I'm hoping to do a lot more with oil pastels in the future. But for this challenge, I'm trying to do something which is simple enough that I can achieve it within the time frame that is viable in my working day. And this is not part of the work that I do throughout the day. Mostly I'm either editing videos or editing podcasts or interviewing artists is a lot of what I do for my main preoccupation. And then this type of art challenge is a little bonus on top. And I'm hoping after this challenge I will then start to create videos which are pieces of artwork. They could be oil pastel paintings, or they could be oil paintings or acrylic or wood, whatever it is that I do. I want it to take a week or so to create, and then after I've done a few of those, to do ones which take a month or so, and then several months, and keep building up in that way, because I'd like my experience with making art to grow beyond this daily challenge. As much as this has contributed to my experience and knowledge, I think there's a lot more to gain from art making when you spend more time and consideration on pieces of work, and you even do thumbnail sketches beforehand and preparation, which I've not done for any of these pieces. These are very spontaneous and fun, kind of playful sketches a lot of the time. And that's not to detract from them. I still think they have great value to me, but I do think there's something which they can't do, which I'm hoping to explore after this challenge is over. And whatever number of the challenge this is, I will put it in the description at some point. It may not be immediately, but at some point I'm going to retroactively go through all of the videos and number all of the submissions. At this point of the recording for this video and the upload of this video, it won't be numbered because I just completely lost track. And I have the issue that the number on YouTube will be different than the number on Instagram. And on Instagram I'm ahead of YouTube because I posted a lot of the submissions first. So this will be something like number 13 or something on YouTube. I'm just guessing. On Instagram I'm up to, I think, 54. Or maybe 56, I think, 56. And in reality I have about 60, I think. So some haven't gone onto Instagram yet, and most haven't gone onto YouTube yet. So it's just playing a game of catch up. The reason for that is that I make the artwork, I photograph it. Whilst I'm making it, it's being filmed, but I photograph it, I edit the photograph, and then I upload that to Instagram. By edit, I just mean frame it, because I need to make it a square so that it fits on the Instagram platform comfortably. Whereas for YouTube, I need to edit the video, and it just takes more work, and then record this narrative over the top. So that's why this has taken so much longer. And then there are just other things which I find more important to do than to make these videos, so it's taken me longer to get to this. But now that I've started it, this is a priority for me. I'm going to try my best to not stop uploading these videos daily until the end of the challenge. So if you are enjoying this, then please subscribe to the channel, because I will be committing to a daily upload as much as possible. In fact, no, I'm just going to commit to it. That I'm going to do it from now to 100, because I think it's possible, and I'm enjoying going back through these drawings and paintings, because it was a while ago. I started these in, I think, June, and we're now in early September, so it's just a big delay. I just didn't get the opportunity to start editing these videos yet, and I think it was because I'd stopped making art daily after starting the challenge, that I knew if I started to upload these videos onto YouTube, it would give me an incentive to start making art again in order to complete the 100-day challenge. Who knows what it means it will spiral out into, because I usually have a inclination to adapt and evolve throughout the challenge. And what I mean by that is did a big run of these oil pastel portraits, and that's why I'm uploading a lot of these together. Some will be out of sequence, but then after that I start doing oil paintings. So at this point where you're watching this video, the recording was before I'd done oil paintings very much. I'd not done very many in my life. At this point where I'm recording this audio, I've done lots of oil paintings. Not nearly as many as I intend to do, but lots more than I had envisioned at this point of making this pastel painting. So I'm looking forward to showing you those. Part of me thinks I should upload these out of chronological order, because that way you get the benefit of a variety of art making. But another part of me thinks if people enjoy these portraits, then there's a lot more of them. I could just keep uploading them, and then you see how my direction changes over time. I do enjoy how this portrait is going. I like that I added purple to the beard. I think that's a nice touch, and I do intend to keep doing that type of colourist approach to portraiture and landscape. And I'm a big believer in experimenting with colour beyond what the reference will sometimes offer, because so long as it's tonally accurate, it doesn't have to be accurate regarding the chroma of the piece. My brother's a big advocate of this by saying just because something is brown doesn't mean it has to be brown in your work. You can make it blue, or just because the sky is blue doesn't mean you can't make it violet, or whatever you need to do to generate more interest in the piece you're making than what there was from the photograph or from the in-person reference. And I think that's very true. I think it's up to the artist to make those decisions, and that's what makes art making so personal, is that these things can be spontaneous. And I think that's what makes them exciting to see in galleries, is the decisions which people make are so mysterious sometimes. That's part of the exploration of art making. I already think this face has got a lot of character. I like the black and white in the hair with the purple. I think that works quite well. And as you can see here, I'm using darkish yellow. I mean, it's a mid-tone, but as far as yellow goes, it's fairly dark. Or some touches there at the back, and which is again not something which, if I were drawing this from imagination, I don't think I would have made a lot of these decisions. And that's why I need to educate myself on what does and does not work. And reference like this, good reference from Earth's World account on Instagram, is an amazing way of finding a lot of these ways of describing people. And this is part of why I find portraiture exciting and interesting, is Earth's World has this mixture of characters on their account. This same yellow now going down for the chap's shirt, and I just know that when it comes to the finish of these pieces, I always like to ensure that something isn't left flat. So I normally put in some shadow or light, or sometimes both, onto the top, and that's what you'll see here. I think it's partly as well because when I use paint, I won't use it straight out of the tube, I'll always mix it. So I'm inclined to do the same thing with oil pastels. I don't always want to just leave a colour, or I very rarely want to leave a colour on the surface without interrupting it with something else. So using the grey on top is just a little bit of interference from a flat mid-yellow, and then you can always add some light on the top, which is what I'm doing here. Plus it will describe the environment that the person is in quite well and give you the opportunity to suggest where there's light and shadow, or it can just help with texture and create a different balance for the person's clothing. But that face and that head tilt to me is what makes this character so strong. It really does add far more than what he would have been if he was side profile or straight on. And you can see here I'm pushing some grey into the mix, and I'm trying out different things to see what is truly going to finish off this piece in a comfortable way, where it's he's going to sit happily on the surface, completely finished. And these last few touches are usually my favourite part, because I know that I've finished, but I'm looking at the reference, searching for subtle touches of light or texture which I can describe, or maybe even shadow. If it's a dark tone that I'm using, it's usually to describe different points, but that's a white that I was using there, and it's often at the end a bit of shadow as well. So you can see here that's exactly what I'm doing. I have a fairly dark brown that I'm going to use to describe certain angles on the face, because with these it then shows where the light is coming from, how the head turns, and what happens when shadow collects in certain areas. But it does take some mixing as well, so I'm trying to mix and soften certain parts of that, and it gives some strength to it. One of the things I always do as well at the end is to brush off all of the crumbs that happen from the oil pastels themselves. After all that scrubbing and blending on top, crumbs do accumulate, and then you have your portrait finished, and there he is, quite a handsome chap. I enjoyed making this. I always enjoy trying to capture the person on the surface, and I think he's got quite a character's face. And those types of touches are things which I couldn't have planned at the beginning, I couldn't have made without a reference, and I couldn't have guessed before it actually occurred. It's a decision that I make at the very end, and it often happens with these portraits, just to finish it off and give that final touch of tone, I suppose. But there it is. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.